So here's a question I get asked all the time by beginner drummers and the parents of beginner drummers, especially coming up to Christmas, thinking about buying some gear to practice on at home. And the question is always, should I get an acoustic kit, in other words, real drums, or should I get an e-kit, an electronic kit? And my first response is to say, well, ultimately, if the student is serious about learning to play drums, their ultimate goal is to have acoustic drums. But that may not be practical right at the start. The second question that I ask, or the second thing that we discuss, is where do you live? In other words, do you live in a house in the country where you don't have neighbours around? Or do you live in a semi or a terraced house where you do have neighbours right next door? So maybe acoustic drums may not be the way to go. But also think about the people in the house, the rest of the family. It's not just the neighbours, it's the family as well when it comes to acoustic drums. But we're going to have a quick discussion on acoustic drums and on e-drums, but there is a third option, all right? So stick with me because we're going to demonstrate at the end this third option that you might find helpful and it might fit your own situation. So being considerate to those that you live with and those you live beside is the way to go. But don't forget, this is your instrument, so you're going to need time to practice. So a bit of balance, bit of give and take, and if you can get that sorted, then great stuff, and you'll be able to practice on your acoustic drums. The first thing that I always say after we get to the point where we're talking to acoustic drums is to get a small bass drum. What I mean by that is maybe a 16 or maybe an 18, but no bigger than a 20-inch diameter, okay? That's the diameter of the drum, because it's the bass drum that really causes the problem sometimes, and especially if you have it in an upstairs room or in a loft, that thump will reverberate around the house. So get a small bass drum. I've done gigs with rock gigs with like an 18-inch bass drum as well as a bigger one. And recently I was out playing a jazz gig with a little 16-inch bass drum. So they'd be used for jazz gigs, but they're great for practice kits at home. And that's a good thing to start with. Get a small bass drum. The other thing about acoustic kits is that you can sometimes buy a complete package. So you're going to get the drums, and you're going to get the hardware, which is all the stands that holds the cymbals, and you're going to get the cymbals as well. In my experience, I've found a lot of the time that the cymbals that come with those packages aren't great. They might only last maybe 6, 9, maybe a year you might get out of them. Months, 6 to 12 months or whatever. But what you could do is start with the kit, because the drums are always pretty good and the hardware is always pretty good. So just start with those for a while, and then maybe upgrade at some stage to better cymbals. But don't forget, as well as being able to buy an off-the-peg package that's got drums and cymbals and hardware, you can buy those components on the likes of Gumtree or eBay and put together your own kit. So you could buy a shell pack of maybe the toms and the bass drum, and then maybe a separate snare drum if there's no snare drum with that, as well as buying the cymbals separately and the hardware separately, and putting the whole lot together, and hey presto, you've got your kit. And one final thought on acoustic drums. If you're working through the likes of the rock school syllabus or any of the other syllabuses, you will need 3 toms, all right? A lot of kits that come in packages might only have a high tom and a floor tom as part of the package, but you really need the 3, so you need a middle tom in there as well, all right? All right, so let's think about e-kits or electronic kits. Here in my teaching studio, I have 2 Roland kits side by side, one for the student and one for myself. The reason that I use those is that we do a lot of play along, and in the rock school syllabus we're working through pieces where you need to play along with a backing track. That is one of the issues as well about the acoustic kits, because if you're working through grades, you'll have headphones on, you'll be playing your acoustic kit. Sometimes if you get a little bit lost in the music, that volume might go up on the acoustic kit. So again, take that into consideration in relation to acoustic kits. The E kits, it's great because you can get a little bit more of a balance going. You can increase the volume of the actual drums, decrease the backing track, or vice versa, and you can work with that way. And the physical sound that others around you might hear whenever you're playing your E kit with the headphones on is minimal. Maybe apart from the bass drum. Again, if you're in an upstairs room with your E kit set up in a room there might be a bit of a thump coming from that, but that's probably the height of it. So right at the start of the video, I said there's maybe a third option, and here it is here. To buy an acoustic kit, and instead of putting real drum heads on, put what are called silent stroke drum heads on. And there's lots of those available on the market, different companies that are making them. So acoustic drum heads, silent stroke drum heads. So here's a short video of me playing an acoustic kit, a small acoustic kit, actually with a 16-inch bass drum. But I'm switching from real drum heads to silent stroke drum heads. Also included are the Zildjian low volume cymbals, but there are other companies that have now started to produce those. The price have come down both for the low volume type cymbals and for the silent stroke type drum heads, and you just switch them if you need to take the kit on a gig, and then whenever you bring it back home, put on the low volume heads, and you're good to go as far as practicing is concerned. So hopefully this is helpful. Let's have a listen. Alright, drum school drummer friends, hopefully you found those few points discussing E drums and acoustic drums helpful, and if you did find it helpful, I'd be grateful for a thumbs up. Any other questions, do feel free to contact me either just directly on the channel, or message me, and I'll try and get back to you as best as I can. Alright, bye for now.
Hello drummers, it's Alan here, and welcome to the Belfast Drum Channel.